We've got the best kids. Our kids are better, they're just so hardworking, they're so dedicated, they have such good work ethic. When you come to meet them, I just beam, when I see our kids in action. They make me so proud. So give them a chance, hire our kids. They're wonderful. Our graduates, there's a great network, but I think that's the main thing is everybody's got your unit of measure. If you're a factory making widgets, we've got the best widgets. Our unit of measure is our kids. We've just got wonderful, motivated, hardworking, good kids.
A quick interruption to remind you to like, subscribe, and rate this podcast so we can get your feedback and know how to make it better. Hey, it's Ari. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Made in America podcast. Manufacturers have been talking to us more and more about workforce development, workforce needs. So I'm really excited to have Jeff Wihbey on, who's the superintendent of the Connecticut Educational and Career System. Jeff, welcome to the podcast, my man. Thanks for coming on.
Thrilled to be here with you. Yes.
Well, listen, man, the tech high schools are really, really important in the Connecticut, career landscape. So, but before we get to those details, got to ask you, the Made in America podcast always starts off with the same two questions, Jeff. What do you make and why do you make it?
So we make career and college ready kids. And, why do we do it? It's for, it's for a great reason. We want to make sure that we're providing, these career college-ready kids for economic development and labor needs here in Connecticut. I mean, that's what our mission is. Our mission is to provide that, high-level education and provide outstanding graduates of our system so that they can interface directly into the workplace and support, like I said, economic development and labor needs here in Connecticut. So we've been doing that for about 100 years, and we'll be doing it for a couple hundred more.
Dude, we absolutely love that. And, workforce is such a critical advantage in Connecticut. And we've talked so much about how workforce development doesn't start at 18. It doesn't start at 25. It starts way before that. And, the Connecticut Technical Education and Career System does so much to help our manufacturers in Connecticut. So before we get into some of the details of that and where we're going and internships and the other great stuff you guys are doing and where it's headed, let's talk a little bit about you. You haven't been doing this for 100 years, but you've been doing it for a while. Kind of help the audience understand how long you've been doing it, what your kind of path has been, and why you're so passionate about it.
Sure. This is my fifth year serving I'm going into my fifth year as the superintendent at CTECS, and I was the assistant superintendent for a couple of years before that. And previous to that, I was a principal, an assistant principal, a department head, and a teacher here in Connecticut. And I'm very proud. The vast majority of my 23 years has been almost 100% in urban settings in Connecticut, Waterbury and Wyndham, and I had some time in Bristol. And I'm very proud that did pretty much every job up the ladder.
I was going to say you really followed the path.
I went up the path, yeah, from teacher, principal, all the way up to superintendent. So I'm proud of that. That point.
Do you feel like having had the experience of sort of being in the trenches, as it were, obviously you were a student at one time, so you've even done that part of it.
I did that part.
Do you think being a superintendent and having that experience is really helpful in running the system?
Absolutely. Definitely. It helps you with the operational needs of the system to understand, what the steps are and how students interface with their learning and own their learning, because you get to you actually were there with them. You know what it takes for them to get engaged and to internalize that learning, not just memorize things. And that's one of the things that I love about the technical high schools is everything that they learn is relevant. It's important. They're not just doing a math problem. They're not just doing math problems on the board, the chalkboard, or as we were, talking about the whiteboard or the computer. They're actually learning how to build things, and they're applying that knowledge. So I think having had to be in the trenches at one point and understand the psychological, what goes into teaching and learning. I think that's really important as a superintendent, and it's been helpful and guided me.
Why did you get into teaching in the first place?
Obviously everybody that goes into teaching goes into it because you want to be helpful and you want to have service, and, what's better than to be helping young people. And, I was still kind of a young person when I got into it, and I remember getting involved in coaching, and I just remember having positive impact and how motivating that was, to me was to make a difference and in human beings' lives, giving them pathways to success. And even today, in my role today, you get most excited when you see success stories of your students in your system. And, when you're a teacher, you have maybe 90 kids. Now I've got 11,000 kids. So, I always take great pride when I hear stories that, a kid got into West Point, or 11 of our kids got internships at Sikorsky, or, those are the things that, you just, it puts a smile on your face and kind of makes it all worthwhile.
Do you remember any like early stories? I always feel like when I start something, I remember when I started my business, it's some of those like early wins that really made an impact that sort of powered me through. You remember any kind of early wins in that way, any early impacts? That'd be interesting.
I just remember the very earliest was when when I graduated from UConn. I was going to go into the financial field, and I had done that for, almost a year. And I just remember, it was neat, and I was making good money. And I remember driving home, back up, to Waterbury, Wolcott, Connecticut from Fairfield County in the evenings, just slugging it up through Route 84 at 8:30 at night, and there was probably traffic, and just kind of not being inspired. And I remember my high school coach had said, "Come on back, we want you to do a little coaching in the spring." So I said, "All right, I'll take a 2-week vacation or a week vacation, whatever it was," and went back and worked at spring practice with the kids. And I remember, had a great week, had a lot of fun, kids learned some things. I learned a little bit about being a teacher. And then I went back to my job the next week. And, I remember driving back slugging it through on Route 84 again, coming up, from Fairfield County area. And I was thinking about, making a difference with the kids, the small impact, making a difference. That was very inspiring. So that was my first victory. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to go get enrolled and go back to school and get my teaching certificate, and went from there. So that was my first, success story. Just the positive impact that I had on the kids, but more importantly, the positive impact that they had on me. I knew how good I felt about my work, and that's kind of what teachers do. A lot of times teachers, the incentive or what keeps them coming back for more is that they feel good about their work. So that's the beauty of being in the educational field. So
Dude, that 100%, man. I could feel that, right? It's like you make that impact, you see it, you're doing good, and that feels really good. That's awesome. So Jeff, help people understand. Look, a lot of people in Connecticut vaguely know of the technical high school system. You say 11,000 students. I bet there's a lot of people listening to this podcast that are like, what? We have 11,000 people in the CTECS system. Can you tell us about that? Like, just maybe for those that don't know, give them like a primer on, what is the history of this 100-year-old system? What's the size and scope of it? Where are these high schools? Give us the...
Sure, we're everywhere. I mean, we have 17 high schools and 3 adult ed centers. We're in pretty much every major population center in Connecticut. We stretch from the New York border at Wright Tech down in Stanford all the way to the Rhode Island border. We have a school, Ellis Tech in Danielson, everywhere in between, in Hartford, Hamden, New Haven, New Britain, Middletown, Ansonia, Milford, Waterbury. We've got our schools everywhere. We really have an impact. Everybody, everywhere you go or anywhere you talk to, oh, my uncle went there, or my nephew goes there, or my niece. Everybody kind of knows, but they don't realize that we're really a school system, not just schools. So a lot of people know, I know Oliver Wolcott Tech because that's my local school, or I know Wyndham Tech, but they don't sometimes realize that there's a statewide, system, tied through that. We're a school system, not just a system of schools out there. 11,000 kids. We've got over 3,000 adult learners as well.
Wow.
We've got 17 comprehensive high schools, and the 3 adult ed centers, 2 of them are at airports, Brainerd Airport and Sikorsky Airport in Stratford, and we also have an adult ed center in Bristol. So, we do have a big impact in Connecticut, and we always like to, and I'll probably come back to this, we always like to point to the labor data. Our graduates make about $10,000 or $11,000 more 5 years after graduation than kids that are graduating from the LEA, comprehensive regular high schools. So, we do a really good job of getting kids trained up, skilled up with a high school diploma and credentials and out into your community. So I think we're all around. We've got an impact everywhere. Just sometimes people don't realize that we're one big giant system. We're actually the 6th biggest school district in the state of Connecticut.
No kidding.
Some of the big ones, Stanford, Bridgeport, Hartford, New Haven. So.
No kidding. So how did this whole system get started? Do you know the history?
A little bit, like vaguely. It started off more regionally with the trade schools, where they were just kind of delivering the trade instruction. But and it's kind of evolved through the generations to the iteration where we are now, where you're providing a comprehensive high school education, but at the same time a full career tech ed education. I'll say CTE a lot. When I say CTE, I'm talking about career tech ed. So our kids are kind of getting 2 educations at the same time. They get their English, math, history, science, but at the same time, half of their time they're in their trade areas getting that CTE experience as well.
So how do you guys find students, or maybe more appropriately, how do students find you?
Sure. So we've got a lot of word of mouth out there. People know about us because their family has had success, which is great, because we get a lot of repeat family, people coming to us. We also are working really hard to outreach to, people who don't know about us, because there's a lot of people in Connecticut that don't know the great value and the great opportunities that they have, with us. So that's something that we're going to look to change in a few years. We're a very diverse school system. We're very proud that our graduation rate, the last time we looked at it, was 97.2%, and we're very proud to say that our African American graduation rate is 97.9%. So our African American kids graduate at a higher rate than the general population, and no other school district, can brag about that. We're very proud that all of our kids come to us, and when they come, they're very successful. The areas that we want to work really hard on recruiting better is for our female population. We want to have, a 50-50 split between males and females, and that's something that we're going to work on strategically over the next couple of years, is to let females know that, a great way to destroy the glass ceiling is to get career technical education and get yourself into career tech ed fields, because we want our girls to be getting a piece of that $10,000 more 5 years after graduation. We think that's a great way to knock down the glass ceiling, is to get more girls into career tech fields, and in areas where they thought were non-traditional in the past, in manufacturing and in automotive and in, mechanical design and engineering. And so that's a big segment that we're going to be working on strategically to recruit better in.
What's the split right now?
It's about 60-40. So
it's actually closer to 50-50 than I might have guessed.
It's closer to 50-50, and it was Probably it's gotten a lot better, but we really want to get it down to 50-50, so it's an even Steven split right down the middle.
Oh, that's really great. So let's just connect us to, I know it's really a manufacturing podcast. So what percentage of the students are in technical career education, CTE, right? That's manufacturing specific.
So we've got, of our 17 schools, 15 schools have manufacturing cluster trades in them, and some of them have more than one manufacturing cluster trade within them. And of the 11,000 kids, 1,500 kids are in the manufacturing cluster. So it's it's around 10% of our population is in the manufacturing cluster.
And what are the rest of the kids doing?
So the other kids are in either the transportation cluster, which would be diesel, automotive, auto body. We have the construction cluster, which is, like architecture, carpentry, and we have the mechanical cluster, which is HVAC, plumbing, and we actually have 33 trades, so I'm going to miss
okay,
some
got it. There's a lot there.
But we have them clustered up into different big areas like that. Hospitality with culinary and hairdressing and so forth. So,
what are you seeing from the demand on the manufacturing side?
we can't get kids into the field fast enough. We can't get welders, manufacturing, mechatronic. We can't get kids trained up fast enough. More and more. There's a lot of work coming back to Connecticut, and we're kind of retooling our workforce and our trade areas so that we can do more. We've added more manufacturing teachers wherever we can so that we can have a higher output. We can't get welding shops built fast enough for places like Electric Bolt, down in Groton. So we're really trying to work hard to be responsive to what the new business and industry needs have been in Connecticut over the last 5 years.
That's really exciting to hear, Jeff. How do you find out what those demands are? Like, in other words, how do we make sure that we're producing the education and the students that are going to meet the needs that the industry has?
So that's the charge of our Board of Education, and our Board of Education has folks that represent all the different sectors of business and industry, and but specifically to your question, our Board of Ed has the Commissioner of Labor, Commissioner Wihbey, who's retiring, and I love that guy, and also our Commissioner of Economic Development as well sit on our board. So the data that we use specifically when we're deciding to add trades, cut trades, or grow trades is the numbers that come to us from Department of Economic Development and the Department of Labor. We look at wages, what business and industry areas have higher wages. What are the Labor Department telling us are the vacancies that are coming? And our board is the one who decides which trades go where. They make those decisions about, like I said, the growing trades, adding trades, or cutting trades, or so forth. So that's what we do. That's how we pick which trades go where. And we have regional profiles. I mean, we've got some schools that are 6 miles apart, so you don't want to offer the same 14 trades. We have a school in Milford and Ansonia that are 6 miles apart. We don't want to offer the same 14 trades at both schools because, we want to have more impact in the area. And do we have a couple that are the same? Yeah, and the reason why is because we know we can graduate, 40 kids from the 2 schools that will get jobs right away in that particular field. So that's kind of how our board is charged, to make sure that we're very responsive, and we have to relook at every trade every 5 years. It's called our trade reauthorization process. This year we looked at health tech and bioenvironmental. Those were the 2 trades that the board looked at this year. Next year we're looking at culinary, hospitality. 2 years ago was manufacturing, and the board was all in. They pushed all the chips in on the table for, expanding manufacturing, trades as much as they can. So we'll be revisiting manufacturing again. That was 2-3 years ago. We'll be revisiting that again in a couple more years. But
So
that's
when
our process.
when you say the chips are all in, what does that mean? Like if I'm a manufacturer in Connecticut, right, 4,000 manufacturers in Connecticut, when I hear chips are all in, what does that mean? Like how do I translate that into action? Or how does that translate to action?
So it was add a third teacher in all of our manufacturing areas, because what that does is it means we can take more kids into our shop. What we do is we have our kids cohorted in shops by 18. One manufacturing teacher can take 18 ninth graders in, and so if we have 2 freshman teachers, we can, we can take more than that. So the board said, add more, more teachers there. What they also did was they had charged me with looking into adding more after-school opportunities to do trades, because we turn a lot of kids away from our schools because we just don't have the physical space and we don't have the teaching capacity.
Do you really?
We do.
So we have more demand for CTECS than we have capacity. Is it a physical plant capacity? Is it a teacher capacity? What's our bottleneck?
It's both. Some of the schools physically can't take any more kids in. There's cafeterias can only be so big. You only have so many English classrooms. Shop sizes can only be so big. That's one thing, but also the teacher piece of it as well. We have contractual limitations and safety limitations that you can only have a teacher oversee 18 kids at a time in a shop. These teachers have their heads on a swivel. They've got kids spread out over 5,000 square feet with plasma saws and, unbelievable equipment. So they really, for health and safety reasons, you can only have so many kids. But, so the number of staff we have would be the second one to go along with the physical space piece of it.
And so what's the plan to sort of add that? I get there's like sort of a couple challenges, right? It's like you want to have more capacity. It takes time to add buildings. It takes time to buy this, especially in the manufacturing side. You mentioned plasma saws, CNC machines, cobots, robots. Not only does it take time to get them in place to put them, but they ain't cheap. Yeah, exactly. They ain't cheap either. And you don't want to, and I'm sure one of the challenges is if you get a plan to buy something now, it's going to be out of date and not too long. So how do you think about, expanding, that capability? And, I'm going to date myself. We were joking around about sort of our ages pre-show, but, I remember having like wood shop and metal shop. Yep. Even when I was in middle school, high school, industrial arts, it was like kind of on a downswing a little bit, but where's that in the process? And can we use some of that capacity to get more kids learning?
Perfect. That is a great question. So the board, we've been working hard. We know, resources are limited. It costs about $140 million to build a tech school, and I can't wait to invite you to come visit and see some of the great things that we do and have there. But
just $140 million, Jeff. Check your couch cushions.
I know. So last time I checked, we're not going to be building, 9 or 10 more schools, but we have 17 beautiful, 15 that are beautiful and 2 that we need to redo. But, we've got some wonderful schools with some wonderful equipment. And what we want to do is we want to be more efficient with our time there. We want to get another shift of kids coming through there. So now, we can double our output at a lot of the schools. And, we do turn away thousands of kids that apply and we just don't have space for. So we're working on and actually we've successfully piloted this year during the pandemic a second shift at Wilcox Tech in Meriden, where we had 3 trades, one of them being manufacturing, where after our day program, our 9 through 12 students left for the day. Kids came from Meriden Public Schools. The 2 Meriden high schools came over in the afternoon, and they took manufacturing classes in our school, and they're getting high school credits. They're getting manufacturing credentials. So we're working towards being able to double our output because, those, like you said, I remember the middle school, the high schools that I went to growing up. Yeah, you got a couple of saws and so forth, but nobody's got the equipment that we have in these buildings. We've got, for the most part, the equipment that the kids are going to be working on at EB or out on the job site. They've got unbelievable 3D printers. Our kids at Platt Tech actually built a part that is up on the space station right now. It's just a point of pride. So a regular LEA can't invest that type of money. The state of Connecticut has invested that money for us. And what we want to do is find more creative ways to get more kids in. So we look at it as, kids who didn't come to us in the 9th grade for whatever reason. Either you didn't get accepted, one, or two, maybe you didn't know how valuable career tech ed was when you were a 7th and 8th grader. Your parents didn't know that, this is an opportunity for you to be making $75,000 a year as an 18-year-old. And Ari, I'm not kidding. We've got kids walking out of our building with their diplomas last week that are starting on, with $70,000 a year jobs, here in Connecticut in manufacturing and in welding, so families maybe didn't know about that, so this is a second bite at the apple for a lot of the kids and the families to say, geez, let me rethink this. So what we do is these kids can still stay at their home high school, take all their academics there, and come to us either in the afternoon or after school and get some career tech ed. So we're going to pick some strategic trades that we know the business and industry is banging on the door for more kids. And we're going to try to get them into this kind of second shift. And we had a lot of success with Meriden and Superintendent in Meriden was a great partner there. And obviously, former Commissioner Cardona helped me broker that, coming from, we had a great opportunity because Commissioner Cardona was one of our graduates at Wilcox Tech, and he was, he came from Meriden Public Schools, and, now we all know he's our Secretary of Education nationally, but we were able to broker that connection for the first time in Meriden, and it really has been great. So we're going to be doing it in Groton next year. We're looking to go to Waterbury and Manchester as well, where we can offer more opportunities in these manufacturing clusters for kids in the local high schools to come get that. And this will help us better meet the coming demand, the rising tide of need for manufacturing in Connecticut.
What's so exciting? Well, there's a lot of exciting things about what you just said, Jeff, but one of them that's really exciting for me is collaboration.
Yeah.
One of the things many people talk about in Connecticut, with 179 towns, the alphabet soup of organizations, that we struggle to sometimes be that for the whole to be greater than the sum of the parts, because the sum of the parts aren't working together. It's super exciting to hear about this collaboration, sort of collaboration between educational institutions, kind of driving towards industry needs. That's some pretty cool stuff, man.
That's why I give Mark Bonini a lot of credit in Meriden, because some superintendents are like, to keep away from our kids, man, and Mark was really, he was forward thinking, and he wanted to see his kids have more opportunities, and that it's the bottom line is it's looking out for what's best for your kids. And so I give a lot of credit for him being one of the first ones to give it a try, and he provided great opportunities for his kids, and we're sharing them. We don't need any credit. We're just happy to be providing this service for the kids. And they don't have the budgets to be buying a $500,000 CNC machine. We have them, and we want to see them used all day, and we want to see more people have access to these.
Absolutely, getting capacity during downtime, using second shifts, such a smart idea to leverage our existing investment. Right, to your point, we already have a school. We don't need to build a new one. Let's just use it times when it's not being used.
Yeah, 169 towns don't need to be buying these shops. Use ours. Let's work together and be partners. And we'll
what are you seeing on the parent side? One of the things that we've talked about a lot on the podcast since the outset and even before is one of the challenges in manufacturing workforce development is sort of sounds like your life experience a little bit and mine, right? I call it the education conveyor belt. When we grew up, right, it was, go to elementary school, middle school, high school, college, go be a lawyer, a doctor, an accountant, work in finance, right? That type of stuff. Even engineering wasn't prized, let alone manufacturing and trades. And I think there's been a shift, especially for those of us that have been around and see what's going on, that manufacturing and the trades too, right? Plumbing, construction, those are great lasting careers that are good. But sometimes the parents don't want it, right? You were in finance first. Are you seeing a shift at all in that, in parents being more open-minded?
A little bit, but it's an area that we have to we have to proactively make that shift through perception. We have to change perception of families of younger kids. They have to understand, these career tech ed jobs, and particularly in the manufacturing field, they're poverty busters. The kids are not going to be getting minimum wage jobs. They're going to be getting living wage jobs when they're 18. You see families that have had multiple generations of poverty in our inner cities, and a kid could go to Prince Tech, and in one generation they can beat that poverty cycle. So it's important for us to get to the families of kids when they're in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade and let them know this is a pathway for your child to have a prosperous life. And it doesn't mean, we pride ourselves on being career and college ready. It doesn't mean that kids can't go to college as well, because we send kids to UConn, we send kids to Central, we send kids to Southern, we sent a kid to Yale, and we send kids to to West Point. So. And the good news is a lot of these kids go to college and somebody else is picking up the bill. I mean, I just got finished paying off one of my student loans a few years ago, and I'm a little
You graduated
long in
a
the
bit.
tooth. Yeah, I graduated 1 or 2 years ago from UConn. These kids they have an opportunity to have no loans. They can work their way through college and make a fortune and end up, having it paid for them and end up moving their way up the ladder in some of these wonderful corporations, that we have here in Connecticut.
Yeah, man, I really agree with that. And I think, I think it's important to be out there letting people know that this is a great opportunity, whether you come from a disadvantaged background or you come from an advantaged background. I don't care if you're from downtown Bridgeport or downtown Greenwich. I don't care if you're from, West Hartford Center or, or the north end of Hartford. Like, there's some really interesting opportunities. And I think, the biggest challenge and, what I've seen in my life is the most sure route to what I perceive to be success, which is a happy life, is to do something that you enjoy doing, and to go into finance or become a doctor because you think that's what you're supposed to do when you really enjoy working with your hands or teaching kids. It's just a shame to be, being unhappy with a good job. That's not a good life.
Yeah, and going back to what we were talking about with the perception changes, a lot of parents who don't know a lot about the manufacturing field, they think of the manufacturing areas as being, like dirty. I mean, I've been into some of these manufacturing plants like Trumpf and Farmington, and you could eat off the floor. I mean, they're like pristine, like, it's like being in a hospital. They're clean, they're bright, they have beautiful big, green grassy areas where people are having lunch outside. They're just beautiful places to work. It's just highly technical, really cool stuff. The things that they're making are unbelievable. So I think there's a false narrative out there of people who don't know what manufacturing is. It's really really neat stuff that the kids are doing, and to see the excitement on a 14-year-old kid's face when they've made a part that can fix something, or to make something work in a car, or it's priceless to see how excited kids get when they make something that's going to make a difference.
We had Dave Tuttle on the show,
Dave's the man,
and
yeah.
Dave's amazing over at Platt, and I actually could see it over behind you. But he brought this chess set that the kids made, and it's unbelievable, and it's been a prized item, and everybody talks about it, and it's really cool. And I remember, for me, it was the IT side of things, but I remember that feeling of putting together a computer, writing a program. I remember when people you control their computer remotely, and the early days people would be like, "Come over here, you got to see what's happening." It's cool to be able to do that stuff, and it's just fun to be passionate about stuff. So how do you think about winning the marketing battle, right? The war of ideas to help people see what's new and possible out there? How do you guys think about that?
What we're thinking, we're finishing out our current strategic plan, and we're discussing our next strategic plan. Our next strategic plan, we really want to be able to get young people into our schools, to see what we're doing at the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade level, like having camps, tech camps in the summer, better outreach, being able to break through those barriers. I mentioned about like other superintendents, like hands off, don't come near my kids. We have to let other superintendents know that, we're here to partner here. And, it's not a disincentive if we work together on providing these opportunities for kids. So strategically, we're going to look for ways to, to build bridges to families and to school districts, that are outside of our own. We want to become better partners to the other towns and school districts. How
do you get in front of parents to help them support that? I mean, so it seems like you've got sort of two battlefronts, right? One is educate kids on the options that are out there. It feels like, it's a little bit easier, right? Kids are usually, many of them are open to new things, especially if they see something they're kind of interested in, they want to give it a shot. So that's probably a challenge, but maybe a little bit more surmountable. Parents tend to be a little bit more, stuck in their ways. So are you thinking of sort of two different battles there? Because certainly engaging with with the school systems and the towns makes a ton of sense. But how do you get the parents behind, the parents and the kids behind the move?
You have to let them see the value. We have to do a better job of showing them what the pathway looks like. The pathway looks many different ways. The pathway looks like you could be a nurse, or you could become an engineer. You can go to college. You can have earnings. So we have to do a much better job of letting those, the families with the younger kids know, look, this is a great pathway. They don't, a lot of them don't know that. It's not their fault. It's not a judgment. It's just, they don't know, that, this is a way to sustain a family for 70, 60, 70 years. A lot of these folks, have worked in these fields. I'm always so proud of my uncle. He worked in the field for, decades and decades, and, was able to sustain his family, and, very proud of his work, and made so many positive, contributions. And, so that's what we need to have the family of the younger kids understand. This is a great pathway, and it doesn't mean you can't go to college if you don't want to. We always want, our kids to have both pathways, or, you could do pathway A, or you could do pathway B, or you could do both.
Right.
That's the big thing that we want them to know, is you get to have control over your pathways. It's another option for you.
That's a great messaging, right? CTECS, keep your options open.
Yeah.
You go any way you want. That's awesome. So I want to ask something specifically. I know we're running out of time, but let's talk a little bit about internships and getting those kids. I think there's a lot of perception out there that, sure, if I'm a Sikorsky or a Pratt & Whitney or an Electric Boat, I guess I get to get involved in some of this stuff. But there's a lot of smaller manufacturers out there. In fact, I'll talk to you off camera about one I just talked to the other day. Small 30-person, 35-person shop. And they're like, hey, do you know any way we could find like a high school kid that might want to intern, for the summer? And I hear that a lot. And people don't know two things: how to engage, and then once they engage, how to make the engagement successful. Can you maybe share that?
Sure. We got 11,000 kids for them, and we've got a program. We call it our work-based learning process, and it's for our 11th and 12th graders. So the kids get 2 years of in-the-shop production training, as well as they learn their theory, the reading and the writing about, the career tech ed. But as juniors and seniors, we really want all of our kids going out and getting these work-based learning, shadowing, internship experiences, where they're going to go out with a company, a big company or a small company. They're going to get paid, they're going to get credit, and they're going to get hours towards their apprenticeship. We give our kids up to 1,500 hours of pre-apprenticeship hours, so they can go right into their apprenticeship situation upon graduation. And these are kids that are trained not only on how to do the trades they're in, but they're trained on soft skills, being polite, being accountable, having, anything connected with accountability, being on time, looking people in the eye, not fooling around with your cell phone while you're on the job. I mean, these are things that our teachers teach in the classroom as part of their curriculum. So they're teaching the hard skills of how to operate the machines, how to build things, but they're also teaching the kids how to get a job and how to sustain yourself successfully in a job, using those soft skills that keep you successful and keep you rising up through, the company you're in. And we put kids out on work-based learning at the biggest corporations here in Connecticut, but we also put them into mom and pop shops as well. So, we have these opportunities. Like I said, we're all across Connecticut. And, that's what we look to do. We find sometimes, particularly in our inner cities, some barriers are transportation. Some of our kids don't have their driver's license. So that's we preach credentials for our kids, stackable credentials. We provide, hundreds and thousands of credentials to kids, opportunities. One of the credentials we're trying to move towards is a driver's license, to help them be more sustainable, to go out and, get to these work-based learning.
It is one of the interesting sort of changes in Connecticut. I've often noted that a lot of our manufacturing, near all of it, moved from inner city downtowns, brick multi-level buildings, which really aren't great for modern manufacturing, and moved to like suburban industrial parks, which can be a bit of a challenge from a transportation side. So even if I'm getting paid $70,000, where I can definitely afford a car, without a driver's license, I'm still sort of stuck. So that's a pretty cool concept to think about a driver's license as one of those stackable credentials. So if I'm listening and I'm a small manufacturer or whatever, like how do I start? Who do I call to say, raise my hand and say, I'm interested? Like, how do I do that?
Sure. So, there's a few different ways. One, our website, ctec.org, or you could just call up the local school that's closest to you. If it's in Litchfield County, we've got Oliver Wolcott Tech up there, or, we've got Waterbury Caner Tech, all of those 17 high schools. If you go to our website, it'll direct you to the local schools. But if you reach out to the leadership at the building, they'll connect you with the dean of students who handles the placements for the work-based learning for the kids, and connect you to the department head. So if you're an automotive shop looking for kids, the DH for automotive will say, hey, here I got we should have baseball cards for the kids. I got 18 kids, and this one's really good with this, or this one's really good. So
that's cool.
We've got kids that are bilingual. We've got kids that have multiple credentials, and and there's a lot of. That's the beauty of our system. We have these regional career tech advisory councils where business and industry folks meet with our teachers twice a year. And there's a lot of horse trading. They provide our kids with jobs. We provide them with kids. They tell us what they want us to be teaching, so they do drive our curriculum process, so we know what we should be teaching. So it's a very symbiotic relationship that we have with folks in business and industry. Particularly, we want to get our kids jobs, and they're looking for well-skilled kids. So it behooves us, and it behooves them. So.
I love it, Jeff. That's awesome, and I just your enthusiasm about it, I think, is really contagious. And it sounds like from Old Saybrook to Winstead, from Brooklyn, Connecticut to Newtown, wherever I am, there's going to be a school nearby where I can reach out to somebody and get a hold of someone. And I think that's just so important because, to your point, you got kids that are looking for opportunities. We got businesses that are looking for kids. Feels like a match made in heaven. So hey man, listen, before I go to rapid fire round of questions and sort of put a wrap on this thing, is there anything about like the CTECS or the Connecticut Technical School System that you think you want to share that I didn't ask about, or that people need to know, because it is such an important pillar of Connecticut life and Connecticut workforce development?
It's just, it's important to know we've been here for a long time. We're going to be here for a long time. We're really proud of the service that we, provide to the state of Connecticut, and we've got the best kids. Our kids are better, they're just so hardworking. They're so dedicated. They have such good work ethic. When you come to meet them, I just beam, when I see our kids in action. They make me so proud. So give them a chance, hire our kids. They're wonderful. Our graduates, there's a great network, but I think that's the main thing. Is everybody's got your unit of measure. If you're a factory making widgets, we've got the best widgets. Our unit of measure is our kids. We've just got wonderful, motivated, hardworking, good kids, and that's what we're really proud of. So,
Oh, dude, amen to that, my friend. All right, here we go. You ready? All right, Jeff, Red Sox or Yankees?
oh, come on, Yankees, easily.
Starbucks or Dunkin'?
Yeah, I'm a tea drinker, so I don't know. Dunkin', I guess. Yeah.
Staycation or exotic destination?
I love to travel around. I love staycation, but I love to travel. I love to see the world.
Exotic destination. iPhone or Android?
I have an iPhone.
Sports car or SUV?
It depends on my budget. Like,
Yeah.
if you're talking like,
Money's no object.
Ferrari, then I'm going down that road.
Money's no object.
I like
Jeff's
good
driving a
pickup
Ferrari.
truck, yeah.
Nice. Do you have a favorite business book?
I like Good to Great. Collins, that's always a good read for, I always kind of harken back to that, it's okay to be good, but in order to get to that next step, you kind of have to take these things. Don't settle for good.
Yeah.
So I like that Collins book, Good to Great.
I like that too. If you could do anything and you had to do something other than be the superintendent of the Connecticut Technical Education and Career System, what would you do?
I mean, I love being an educator. I would love to play center field for the Yankees.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't have the wheels for that.
Yeah. Tell me about it. I dreamed of being an infielder for the Boston Red Sox, so that's I feel your pain on that. What's one thing, Jeff, that you learned early in your life or early in your career that you think helped springboard you to all the success that you've had?
Just for education, it's just always put the kids first in every decision, and you'll never go wrong. As long as I had a great boss. My first one of my first bosses when I became an assistant principal, he would always, you'd have meetings, and you'd make all sorts of decisions, and everybody would get their chance. He'd always finish the meeting with, "Well, how's this going to affect kids? How is this going to be good for kids?" And I always hear his voice in my head when I'm sitting around my cabinet or with the board. I think, I learned early on, if you just always make them be the center of the decision, you'll always end up in a good spot. And it's hard, people who care about kids, everybody's got different agendas and so forth. It's important to just kind of rein everybody back into that point. How's this going to affect our kids positively? So, and, for us, it's good because getting them into the workforce and successfully skilling them up is always going to be good for kids, So it's like, it's a natural fit for our system.
That's awesome. And what's one thing that you learned later in your career or later in your life that if you could go back and tell young Jeff, and if he listened to you, would make a real positive impact?
You don't have to throw your 100-mile-an-hour fastball all the time. It's good to throw the curveball and the changeup. So young Jeff probably wanted to throw the 100-mile-an-hour fastball all the time. But
he was going to the heater all the time.
Yeah, too much. But now I understand that you've got to have different pitches in your arsenal. It's like I'll connect this to tech stuff. That's why a good carpenter has hundreds of tools in their tool shop, or you don't use the same bit for everything, on the machine, that's probably the thing with leadership and management. You got to try different things, and you got to manage everybody a little bit differently, because everybody requires a little bit of different, management and supervision. So I think that would probably be something that, 32-year-old Jeff didn't know that well.
Dude, that was awesome. Jeff, man, it has been really great having you on. You're doing great work in the CTECS system. We really appreciate it. Please keep it up. Love the expansion concepts. Connecticut's future really relies on what you guys are doing.
Thank you. Great to be here. Appreciate it. And we've got a great team, too. So, we're really proud of our folks.
Nice.
Made in America with Ari Santiago is brought to you by IT Direct, a Compass MSP company.
As always, thank you so much for tuning in and spending some time with me today. My goal is to help build a community where we can learn and grow together. Your input, feedback, and engagement is critical to making that happen. Please do comment, like, and subscribe so more and more people can hear what we're doing and join our community of growth and success. Thanks so much for tuning in. Talk to you again soon.